Ted, welcome back. It's good to see you. I wanted to start with a follow-up to an investigative report about the Washington Bridge that I worked on with my colleague Jeremy Bernfeld. We found that RIDOT, the Rhode Island Department of Transportation, may have failed to perform crucial inspections of the westbound bridge that could have warned of the bridge's deterioration. Now, RIDOT Director Peter Alviti makes a monthly appearance on Channel 12. He talks with your colleague and your wife, we should point out, Kim Kalunian, and she asked Director Alviti to respond to that report. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
I want to talk to you about an investigative report that just came out earlier this week. Rhode Island Public Radio, the Public's Radio, and Rhode Island PBS. They found that the DOT could have and maybe should have used sort of X-ray technology on the Washington Bridge to find those critical failures before the time that you did. They said that there are no records that show you did this. Did the DOT use that technology to inspect the bridge?
So I've said many times, Kim, we have a court case pending. The Attorney General is handling a court case. We've been in numerous discussions with the attorneys that are handling this court case, and they've advised us not to speak on the case. And these issues go to the main case. They have to do with what will be argued in court. Is it the responsibility of the experts? It's funny you should mention X-ray. You go to a doctor, you say you have a symptom. They determine for you what tests are necessary. They're the experts. You don't tell them, I want an X-ray or I want an MRI. They tell you, they're supposed to tell you and advise you, I think you have this, so therefore get an X-ray. That's the crux of the case that's very important. We hired private engineering companies as the experts for us. That's been going on for decades. And the court case is about that very substance.
And Ted, as you just heard there, it's been difficult for reporters to get answers and really advance this story because we're constantly hearing Director Alviti, Governor Dan McKee cite the lawsuit and say we can't talk about it because of this. But as you and I know, it can take years for lawsuits to get adjudicated.
Yeah, it's been enormously frustrating, Michelle. And I have to say, the minute they started to talk about litigation here, I cringed because I've been a reporter long enough to know as soon as you put that cover of litigation over a topic, it's a dodge for all officials when reporters are trying to bring some accountability, ask questions, even just understand what happened. We get this constantly, as you know, and as you saw in your report. It's been very hard. It was very different, as I've said before, from when the state had the credit union crisis. And within a few months, the president of Brown had put out a report commissioned by the governor laying out what had happened and what had gone wrong. We haven't had that here.
Right. And also you have people who are frustrated and saying, how can we trust a state and a department to safely manage the building of a new bridge when we still don't know what went wrong with the old bridge?
Right. And that, I thought, was also what made your report very timely, because the bridge is suddenly going to be, front page news again coming up, because June 6th is the day. And in fact, in that interview with Kim, Director Alviti confirmed again, the McKee administration on June 6th expects to announce the winning bidder to build the new bridge and then the cost of that new bridge and the timeline to get it done. I think that, people have been waiting so long to hear that. And I think depending on what the details are, I'll be very interested to see the public reaction. Yeah,
that will be coming soon. Let's transition from the Washington Bridge to Washington, D.C., what President Trump is calling the Big, Beautiful Bill Act, his words, right? And they are sweeping measures to change federal taxes and spending policies. It recently passed the House, and it has a host of provisions from reducing taxes on tips to immigration funding. And you've been monitoring what this means for Rhode Islanders. What can you tell us?
Well, as you say, the bill's very complex. There's a lot in there, but two of the programs I'm keeping a close eye on are Medicaid and SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, formerly food stamps. And in both cases, Republicans want to lower spending on those, partly to offset the cost of tax cuts and extending tax reductions. On Medicaid, they want to put in stricter rules, work requirements, things like that, which the Congressional Budget Office says would reduce enrollment in the program by millions of people nationwide over the coming years. Would that have an effect on the state budget? Would state lawmakers try to backfill that? And then on SNAP, they want to have states pay a share of the cost for those food benefits, which hasn't been the case before. So that would be potentially significant additional cost added to the state budget, which, as we've talked about before, is already tight. So both of those I'm keeping an eye on, but I should say briefly, Michelle, this could change a lot in the Senate, the bill, before it gets to the president's desk. So I don't know what those two programs will look like at the end of all this.
And we should know when?
They'd like to have it done by July 4th. That looks ambitious, but we shall find out.
All right, good to see you. Thank you, Ted.
Good to be here.